It's time for another gardening update, so let's get out there and take a look. In the green stalk planter, things could be doing a little better, but they aren't too bad, I guess. You can see we've got some micro tomatoes growing up here in the top. Over here in the compost pile, we have some potatoes growing. I stuck a sweet potato up the top. I've noticed quite a few potato beetles going. Hopefully I'm going to do a video on that soon. The onions are starting to grow a little bit, and we stuck some strawberries in the ground over here. They weren't doing all that great in the green stalk planter. The onions have picked up a little steam after we got some rain recently, and along with the rain we got lots of wind, and in the storm before that we got some hail, so that was our second hailstorm. And the wind knocked out our power for a couple of days, but everything's going good now. The garlics are producing scapes. We're a little behind on those because we didn't have power, so weren't able to process them, but we'll get that done soon, I hope. As you can see between the garlic rows, we have some tomatoes growing, and they're doing pretty well. I'll be able to remove those cutworm collars soon around the bottom of the plant. Those are the red solo cups that we use. I'll be thinning out the melons behind this cattle panel soon, along with the China Jade cucumbers over by this 5-foot tomato cage. I'll do a quick walk by of the garden over on this side so you can see a few things. There's our straw bale with the sweet potatoes in it. Then we have lots of peppers along the edge here. There's some asparagus I planted from seed last spring. It's still going. I need to transplant that before it gets hot. Then I have some beets here that I transplanted from another bag. I've never transplanted beets before, so we'll see how that goes. The potatoes and the peas, the beets over here, and the peppers are all doing great, except for a little hail damage. There's an ornamental sweet potato I have in that grow bag, in that container. It's about the same size as one of the grow bags, but it's plastic. I told you a while back that the banana tree was dead and I replaced it, but it turns out it wasn't dead at all. It was just slow to come up, so I've got probably 7 or 8 little banana sprouts coming up here and there. I even have one over here next to these pots that I'm going to use later. Here's something I have that's new. I haven't grown peanuts in quite a while, so I thought I'd stick a few in the ground this year. These are Virginia Jumbo. They're just getting started. Now I have a couple over on this side. I marked with some bamboo stakes so I wouldn't step on them. These two are my tomato crosses. They're F1s, and they're doing great. They're actually growing better than most of the other plants, except for maybe a couple of the cherries. This is the geranium kiss. It's also doing pretty well. We have a volunteer sunflower over here. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that one or not. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to see what comes up and what we have to work with. Over here, we've got some pole beans. These are the Monte Gusto, and some of them have climbed the cattle panel probably close to 3 feet. Then some of them are just starting to get going. The eggplant isn't doing all that great so far. If you've never grown eggplants before and you plant some and you see all these little holes in the leaves, like somebody shot it with a shotgun, those are caused by flea beetles. That's those little black beetles that you can see on these leaves. They're not very large, but they can do a lot of damage if there are enough of them. The long beans are a little thick, so I'll probably thin those a little bit, but they're just starting to grow enough they'll be climbing soon. Another thing that has to be thinned are the okra seeds that are just starting to sprout good. Those will take off when it starts to get warm. They love the heat. The muncher cucumbers are also very thick. I plan to transplant some of those into a different place and have even more cucumbers. We canned a lot of pickles last year and we'll probably do the same this year as long as everything works out. The dill plants are doing okay, but not great. I have some basil coming up here. There's a whole bunch of plants there, but I'll probably thin it to just one plant eventually. I had a whole bunch of seeds, so I just threw some down. Then right next to it, we have some Malabar spinach. Same situation. I had a whole bunch of seeds, so I'll probably thin those out to maybe 3 or 4 plants. Our popcorn that I planted is coming up pretty well. I've already thinned that out. I might thin it out a little more, I'm not sure. But then beyond that, we have our variegated corn. Let me see if I can get over here where you can see it better. And some of it's pretty extreme. You can see some of those leaves are almost completely white. Let's just walk down along this row so you can see what we have here. There's another one that's pretty extreme. I'll be crossing that with the popcorn. And one thing I should mention for those of you who are new to growing corn, you shouldn't plant 2 types of corn together because they will cross. I'm growing these types together because I want them to cross. Growing some bush beans over here. They're starting to look better. They've got a little insect damage on them, but nothing too bad. You might have noticed these little purple plants. Those are amaranth, and they reseed very heavily. Even when you try to harvest them, you'll drop some seeds on the ground and they'll come up everywhere. They're almost like a weed that's edible. People have been using amaranth for the seeds for hundreds, if not thousands of years. I'm not really sure. I researched it once, but I don't remember. You can see that the leaves have a lot of damage from insects. I think it's like a striped flea beetle that does that. Seems like they only bother the amaranth and nothing else. Over here we have some radishes. Instead of planting them all at once, I planted 3 plantings. The first one here, then 2 weeks later, I have some more growing. Then 2 weeks later than that, I planted some more, and they're just starting to come up. So instead of having too many radishes all at once, I'll spread them out over a longer period. I like to plant a few flowers here and there just to add some eye appeal to the garden. This is one called Cleome. It's a different color than I've seen before, so I thought I'd give it a try. Not too far from it, I have some Velvet Queen sunflowers growing. I just started. Between some of the grow bags, I have some marigolds growing. That white stuff you see on them is diatomaceous earth. The roly-polies were eating a lot of the leaves, so I put the diatomaceous earth on there to save them. When I transplanted the peppers outside, most of them I cut off the peppers so the plants could get growing good. I left this one on. It's kind of a neat burgundy color. This pepper is called Midwest Midnight Eclipse. It has very dark foliage that is kind of green color when it first starts growing out. And it has very dark, almost black peppers that are not hot. Although I have heard from some people who said they got some hot ones, so I'm not sure how that's working out. Then we have one right next to it called Midwest Midnight Eclipse 2.0. And what I did on this one is I crossed the Midwest Midnight Eclipse with another pepper to improve its taste and the length of the peppers. Here's a good example of what the hailstorm did to some of the plants. It broke some of them off. That one's still trying to grow. And then we have another one that did the same thing right next to it. And it's doing the same thing, just growing some leaves from what was left of the stem. This one kind of has some interesting peppers. They are purple, not very big, but as they get longer, they kind of curl down towards the ground, even though they start pointed up. Here's a look at some of the tomatoes over by the storm shelter. They're doing okay since I haven't done anything to them since I stuck them in the ground. These are long clippings surrounding them, by the way. It keeps the weeds from growing. This is the Shimofuri. It's got variegated foliage. It's kind of neat looking. I'm not going down in there, but one person asked to see inside the shelter, so here's a look. We just have a bench down in there for us and a couple of chairs in case the neighbors need to come over. We don't have many, but we've got a few blackberries over by the shed. Some of those looks like they'll be turning red soon. Here's our variegated basil. The bad thing about this basil is it doesn't produce seeds, so I won't be able to save seeds from it. Here's our petunia tower that I made a couple of years ago. All of these had flowers on them when I first transplanted them. I cut the flowers off to make it easier for them to adapt and get those roots spread out. But this will be covered with flowers before we know it. These are some of the stackable pots that I got at the Dollar Tree. I have rose moss planted in them, and it doesn't look like much right now, but later on when the sun comes out and warms up, they'll open up and it'll be pretty. That's about all I have to show you this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.